Hi everybody, Meredith Clark, your Region 10 ESC World Languages Consultant. I'm excited to present this video for you today because it's about the LOTE TEKS and identifying the desired results and acceptable evidence of learning. Okay, so to be successful teachers, administrators, coordinators, coaches of world languages, we need to be able to know our TEKS inside and out, and also be able to very quickly identify what the desired results for learning are and also what the acceptable evidence of learning. So what are the kids going to do so that I know that they've learned, right? Okay, great. So here's my contact information. Feel free to contact me at any time. And also, just another quick check-in, you're going to be able to answer these questions by the end of the video. Number one, how do I read the TEKS? Number two, what are the desired results and the acceptable evidence of learning? All right, so let's tackle that first question. Okay, your TEKS are divided into sections. Now, the screenshots that I have here are for spoken languages that are modern languages, okay? ASL and Latin, your TEKS are slightly different, but they still contain all of the major sections, okay? So on the first page or section of the TEKS, we're going to see the introduction, which is the rationale behind why world language education is important. And we're also going to see the goal of world language education in paragraph 2, which is communication. The goal is that kids use the language to communicate with other people. Okay, that's the first page of the TEKS. Definitely should read it. Don't skip over it. Okay, the second page of the TEKS breaks down the proficiency levels that students should attain by the end of the course. And this is really important because it tells us, by the end of level 1, kids should reach novice mid and novice high. End of level 2, kids should reach, novice high to intermediate low. Okay, so second part of the TEKS, very important, lets you know what the performance levels the student should attain are. Okay, it says proficiency in the TEKS, but we know it's performance because they're doing it in the classroom. Okay, the last part of your TEKS are the strands, okay? And so for Latin and spoken modern languages, there are 3 strands: interpersonal mode, interpretive mode, and presentational mode. Okay, in American Sign Language, you have 5 strands, and those are your 5 C's. Okay, now if you look at that page here, you'll see there's a box with a lot of, it almost looks like a little paragraph. That's the knowledge and skills statement, and then you'll see lettered statements underneath A, B, C, D, E. Those are called the student expectations, and those are very important. Okay, all right. So now that we know all the major sections of the TEKS and how to read them, let's see if we can pinpoint, what do the TEKS actually want us to teach? We know we want the kids to communicate, but how do we know if they're communicating? Okay, this is a quick review on backward design. T-Test Dimension 1.1 says that all goals for learning should be aligned to the state content standards. Okay, so in world languages, those desired results are always going to be the proficiency level, or the performance level, because they're doing it in class. The acceptable evidence is if kids can do the student expectations in the TEKS. And the last part of backward design there you see on the screen is when the teacher designs the lesson or the learning experience. Okay, now a lot of teachers start with planning the lesson first, and they skip the first two phases of backward design. Okay, so when we plan and we're not thinking about, oh goodness, I need to plan to get these kids to intermediate low. If we're not planning for intermediate low, we're probably not going to get there. Okay, so don't skip that first stage of backward design. The second stage of backward design is, can the kids do the TEKS, right? So don't skip that step either, because a lot of times we think about the activity that we want the kids to do, and we're like, oh, I have this great activity that I do for these verbs, but really what we need to do is say, oh, I'm teaching this student expectation, so I'm going to design an activity that helps kids do that student expectation from the TEKS. I'll show an example in just a second. okay? So the desired results are clearly labeled in your TEKS. It's always a proficiency level, okay? They're also labeled at the top of those columns there. Acceptable evidence, how do I know if a kid is intermediate low? Okay, the acceptable evidence is if they can do the things in the column, which are called the student expectations, A, B, C, D. Okay, things like ask and answer questions or express and exchange an opinion. Okay, if students can do that, then we know that they're giving us the evidence of intermediate low. Okay, so it's pretty easy. It's very straightforward. So why do we need to know this? Well, we need to know this because in order to interpret our unit documents correctly, we need to understand, oh, okay, this is level 1, the desired results are clearly labeled there. That would be novice mid to novice high. And when I read those learning targets, okay, I can say to myself, oh, these are the desired results. This is what kids need to be able to do by the end of the unit. Notice in your curriculum document or your unit document that the desired results never say that students know how to conjugate a verb or that they can use the subjunctive correctly or that they know all of the signs for the animals. Okay, the desired results are always communicative and they're always aligned to the TEKS. Okay, the acceptable evidence of that is labeled clearly in the unit document on those summative tasks. So if I don't understand my TEKS and what the desired results, which are the performance level, and the acceptable evidence, which is kids doing the TEKS, if I don't understand that, then I'm probably not really going to deeply understand my unit document. Okay, here's 2 examples. Teacher A reads the unit document and sees that the summative unit assessment for interpersonal mode is to ask and answer questions about who you are. And so the teacher designs some fun vocabulary matching games for greetings and introductions, and also has kids hopscotch out the verb to be. Now, at first glance, an administrator might walk into the room and say, oh, these kids are engaged and they're speaking the target language. This is great. But when we look at our unit document, we've got to say, is a vocabulary matching game and being able to conjugate the verb ser going to help students learn how to ask and answer questions about who they are? So let's take a look at Teacher B. Teacher B reads that same summative performance assessment task. Students are going to ask and answer questions about who they are using memorized words and phrases. Okay, but Teacher B, instead of discreetly teaching vocabulary from a list and making games to help the students memorize it, Teacher B is going to model asking and answering questions with students in class, supporting her target language use with visuals, gestures, slow speech, and repetition. She's going to engage students in asking and answering questions. Students will start to answer in the target language, and then students will be able to ask and answer questions about who they are to each other. Okay, now if we think which teacher is more likely to successfully teach this unit and get kids to perform the summative interpersonal task, is it Teacher A or Teacher B? I think it's pretty clear that Teacher B is going to successfully implement the unit. Okay, so these are some things to take into consideration. The success criteria, again, it's not rocket science. Everybody who supports world language teachers and teachers themselves need to know what the desired results are for their course level. That's always the proficiency level or the performance level as we test it in class. And all of us need to know, well, if I'm teaching level 3 and the desired results are intermediate low to mid, I need to be able to know, well, what does an intermediate mid kid sound like? Oh, they can do the SEs and the TEKS. Mystery solved. So if the kids can do the TEKS for level 3, I know that they're in the correct performance level. All right, everybody needs to know that. And then also, what do we need to do? Okay, knowing is one thing, doing is another thing. Teachers, you've got to plan to teach students to do the SEs and the TEKS. Task number 1. You've got to cut out most of the things that you used to do that aren't direct teachings, okay, or asking students to do the TEKS. Examples are maybe some games, maybe some activities, maybe that poster project that everybody used to do. If it's not directly leading kids to do the summative task on the TEKS, then it's probably not going to be helping kids develop communication. All right? Campus principals and central staff, we've got to help our teachers become aware of if the tasks they're planning for are leading to that summative unit assessment prompt. And we need to support teachers if they need help in learning how to design that instruction, okay? So those are the things we need to do in order to be successful in implementing a world languages unit, okay? As always, Region 10 is here to help and keep learning with us. Our website is posted there. It's bit.ly/capital R10 capital WL. And we have asynchronous, synchronous, face-to-face, online, everything you need, we've got it. Okay? So thank you guys very much. I hope you have a very successful unit implementation, and we'll see you next time. Okay?